This is the RPGamer review of Seven Nights Time Wander on Nintendo Switch. Review written by Paul Shkreli, narration by Anna-Marie Privitere. Prominent mobile developer Netmarble has made the decision to create a spin-off title for its Seven Nights mobile RPG family for the Nintendo Switch, replacing the free-to-play and gacha elements with a single purchase. Unfortunately, Seven Nights Time Wander hews too closely to its mobile ancestor, providing a linear, simplified RPG experience that doesn't really translate well to console. The player controls Vanessa, a young girl who very quickly is transported to another dimension and transformed into an adult woman. Vanessa encounters a talking hourglass who agrees to help her track down the missing time crystals needed to return her to her time period. From there, players cycle through a series of dimensions to collect items, befriend over a dozen allies, and fight monsters while searching for the missing time crystals. While the story doesn't require any knowledge of the Seven Nights mobile title, what is there is sparse and uninspired. There is no true characterization for Vanessa or really any of her companions. The game eventually provides opportunities to participate in additional character-building skits, although the dialogue for each party's member is, well, trite. It is difficult to understand the motivation of the cast, as the game does not really devote more than a few lines of text for each introduction before they are relegated to an eventually bloated roster of aesthetically inconsistent characters. After each introduction, the game settles into a familiar rhythm. Starting in a central hub, the player is given an opportunity to purchase items and equipment or engage in side missions. When ready, they use the dimensional border to transport into the Shadow Realm. Each dimension is essentially a game board, with players traveling across a series of nodes from one end of the map to the other. As players travel across each node, treasure chests and enemies materialize with little notice. There are branching paths that usually lead to an item or a fast travel point, but otherwise the experience is painfully linear and quite passive. Other nodes include story scenes, which typically result in a new character joining the party, some type of boss battle, or, well, both. It's reminiscent of a mobile RPG overworld with little to no sense of exploration or discovery. Combat in the game is markedly different than its mobile progenitor. The game features a turn-based battle system where each side is able to select one attack per turn. The player is given approximately 3 seconds to choose which attack or spell to let loose. If an action is not chosen, the turn is simply forfeit. In theory, this paradigm requires quick input in order to launch successful attacks. However, with 5 playable party members, each with 3 attacks, the player must move incredibly quickly or pause the game to decide what to do next. Each action is represented by an icon, frequently leaving the player to toggle the on-screen explanation of each attack. The battle system also relies on elemental exploits. Each character and enemy has an assigned element viewable on-screen during battle. If a party member takes advantage of an enemy's weakness, a second attack is granted. This system is easy enough to exploit in random encounters with multiple enemies of the same type, and the game definitely deserves credit for attempting to introduce real-time elements and a battle system with layers of complexity. But the end result is mostly dizzying. It is difficult to evaluate the impact of the enemy's last turn and make a strategic decision about how to respond before the timer runs out, leaving your party vulnerable to follow-ups. This is incredibly frustrating given the player will spend much of the time in combat. The game boasts beautiful character art, but the in-game and battle sprites are entirely unremarkable, while the battle graphics feel really on par to a 3DS title. Many attack animations are dynamic and take up the entire screen, conveying a sense of deep power to the attacking character. The background images of the dungeons are well drawn and detailed, but do little to elevate the actual gameplay experience. Still, the jagged edges of the character models in-game are really jarring compared to how smooth everything else is. Similarly, the game's soundtrack is entirely forgettable, does not produce any particular standout tracks, and is frequently drowned out by the Japanese-only voice acting. There is a blandness which permeates the entire game that simply serves to remind the player of the game's lineage. Making matters worse is the subpar performance of the game, with frequent slowdowns and sputters during transitions, or even during regular battles, without particularly appearing to tax the limitations of the Switch hardware. With the release of Seven Nights Time Wanderer, Netmarble has attempted to replicate their free-to-play title's success with a console offering. Unfortunately, the game underserves both the source material and players on the Switch. While fans of the Seven Nights mobile game might enjoy this title, there are scores of more fulfilling experiences available on the console. We give Seven Nights Time Wanderer a 2.0 out of 5. Curious to know how our review score system works? Head on over to RPGamer.com to learn more. Thanks for tuning in for another RPGamer.com video review. We hope you had a fantastic new year and that you look forward to more video content in 2021.